The bronze statue of Winston Churchill in the heart of London did not fall to a protest or a wrecking ball. It was severed cleanly at the shoulder by a blur of emerald light moving faster than a professional marksman's bullet. There was no explosion, no warning, and no sound other than a high-frequency whistle that lingered in the air like a persistent ringing in the ears. At the base of the pedestal, lying amidst the sheared metal, sat a single feather. It was a vibrant, shimmering green, stiffer than a piece of carbon fiber, and sharp enough to draw a line through solid stone without losing its edge. This was the first documented encounter with what the public now calls the Emerald Plague, a phenomenon that has turned the continent's most celebrated urban forests into zones of silent, high-velocity peril. The transformation of Europe's capitals into green cities was supposed to be the crowning achievement of modern urban planning. London, Berlin, and Paris invested billions to weave massive corridors of oak, birch, and thick ivy through their concrete hearts, creating what were meant to be the lungs of the world. It was a vision of harmony, a way to heal the rift between humanity and the natural world. But nature has a way of filling a vacuum in ways that the planners never anticipated. Deep within these synthetic forests, a new predator has emerged, one that has adapted perfectly to the vertical canyons of glass and the lush canopies of the new parks. They are known as Saw-winged Falcons, though they share little with the raptors of the past. These are creatures born of a biological deviation that remains unexplained, thriving in the shadows of the very cities that invited them in. A witness in Berlin's Tiergarten reported seeing a heavy oak branch, nearly a foot thick, drop to the forest floor as if sliced by a laser. There was no storm, no wind, and no machinery nearby. There was only that same haunting metallic shriek echoing through the trees. When the branch was examined, the cut was found to be surgically precise, with the wood grain polished smooth by the sheer speed of the impact. The saw-winged falcon does not hunt with talons or beaks in the way we understand. It does not grapple with its prey or engage in the messy struggles typical of the natural world. Instead, it uses its wings, appendages that have evolved into rigid, serrated blades of organic silica and hardened keratin. It strikes in a state of perpetual motion, diving from the heights of skyscrapers and leveling out into a horizontal scream that harvests anything in its flight path. The most unsettling aspect of these creatures is their invisibility. Their plumage is a masterclass in natural camouflage, a deep, iridescent emerald that mimics the specific light refraction patterns of urban park leaves. To stand in a park in Berlin is to be surrounded by thousands of potential hiding spots, where the predator is indistinguishable from the swaying foliage. They do not move like birds. They transition from stillness to Mach-level speeds in the blink of an eye. For many residents, the first sign of their presence is not a sighting, but a sudden localized silence. The songbirds go quiet, the squirrels vanish into the deep hollows of the trees, and the air itself seems to thicken with a static charge. Then comes the whistle, the sound of the wind being torn apart by a living blade. In the early months of the sightings, officials dismissed the reports as architectural failures or the result of extreme weather. They pointed to the Green City Initiative as a success, ignoring the growing number of domestic pets that never returned from their evening walks and the strange, linear scars appearing on the bark of ancient trees. However, the evidence became impossible to ignore when the structural integrity of urban infrastructure began to fail. In London, the suspension cables of a pedestrian bridge were found with microscopic uniform notches, marks that match the serrated edge of a saw-winged falcon's primary feathers. It wasn't a deliberate attack on the bridge. It was a byproduct of a creature using the structure as a sharpening stone. The city was no longer just a habitat. it was a whetstone for a new kind of biological weapon. The physics of the Saw-winged Falcon defies traditional ornithology. To travel at the speeds recorded by high-speed urban cameras, the bird's bone structure would need to be denser than any known avian species, and its feathers would require a tensile strength comparable to modern aerospace alloys. Some independent researchers suggest that these birds are not a product of slow evolution, but a rapid mutation triggered by the unique chemical and electromagnetic environment of the ultra-modern city. They are creatures of the new green, adapted to feed on the abundant, high-energy pests of the city, while utilizing the wind tunnels created by skyscrapers to reach impossible velocities. They are the first inhabitants of a world we designed, but did not intend to populate with such things. There is a specific kind of dread that has settled over the residents of London and Berlin. It is not the fear of a predator you can see coming, but the fear of a landscape that has become a weapon. The parks, once symbols of tranquility and environmental progress, are now avoided after dusk. The Emerald Curfews are not official laws, but they are observed by anyone who has heard that unmistakable whistling sound. People have learned to watch the trees, not for the movement of the wind, but for the absence of it. If the leaves are still, but you hear a rushing air, you are already in the path of something that has perfected the art of the invisible strike. You do not run from a saw-winged falcon. You simply hope you weren't the target. The sound of the saw-winged falcon has been described as a razor in the sky. It is a sonic signature that triggers a primal response in the human brain. It is high, thin, and metallic, lacking the organic warmth of a typical bird call. It is the sound of friction, of a biological machine pushing against the limits of the physical world. In Berlin, sound mapping sensors designed to detect traffic violations have instead captured thousands of these whistle strikes occurring in the middle of the night. The data shows a terrifying efficiency. These creatures do not miss. They do not struggle. They simply pass through their target, leaving behind a wake of falling leaves and the scent of ozone. It is a clean, clinical removal of life, performed at 300 miles per hour. Biological samples of the feathers recovered from various sites have yielded more questions than answers. The emerald hue is not caused by pigment, but by structural coloration, microscopic ridges that trap and reflect light in a way that makes the bird look like a flicker of light rather than a solid object. The edges of the feathers are lined with microscopic, glass-like serrations that act as a saw, allowing the wing to cut through resistance with minimal loss of momentum. Scientists are baffled by how a living organism can maintain such a specialized, high-maintenance anatomy. Some believe the birds are self-sharpening, using the granite and steel of the city's skyline to hone their wings to a molecular edge. They are literally refining themselves against our architecture. The social impact of the Emerald Plague has been profound. The Green City movement, once the pride of Europe, is now being scrutinized as a catastrophic oversight. Critics argue that we created a perfect, unchecked habitat for a predator that we do not understand. Property values near major parks have fluctuated, and the architectural design of new buildings has shifted to include anti-avian features. Smooth, curved surfaces that offer no perch and no wind shelter. Yet, the birds remain. They have integrated themselves into the rhythm of the city, becoming as much a part of the landscape as the glass towers they inhabit. They are the hidden tenants of our progress, and they are here to stay. There is a mystery that remains at the heart of the saw-winged falcon phenomenon. They do not appear to have a traditional nesting ground. No one has found a horde of these birds, no eggs and no fledglings. They appear and disappear as if they are a part of the city's own breath. Some speculate they dwell in the vast, abandoned ventilation shafts of the London Underground or the forgotten bunkers beneath Berlin, emerging only when the conditions are perfect for a high-speed hunt. They are ghosts in the machine. Emerald specters that remind us that nature doesn't always return in the way we expect. Sometimes it returns with an edge that cuts through our illusions of safety. As the sun sets over the Thames, the green corridors of London take on a dark, heavy hue. The light catches the glass of the Shard and the Gherkin, reflecting off the leaves of the newly planted forests below. For a moment, everything is peaceful. But then, a pigeon taking flight from a rooftop is suddenly, silently divided in midair. There is no struggle, no sound of a predator's cry. Only the whistle of the wind and a flash of emerald light that vanishes into the canopy of a nearby park. The remains fall to the pavement with the sound of a soft rain, while the city carries on, unaware of the shadow that just crossed its path. The efficiency of the kill is matched only by its silence. The government maintains a stance of cautious observation, officially categorizing the Saw-winged Falcon as a rare, migrating anomaly. They urge citizens to remain calm and to treat the parks with the same respect they would any natural wilderness. But the residents know better. They have seen the surgical marks on the trees. They have felt the air pressure drop as something passes inches from their heads at terminal velocity. They have seen the emerald shimmer in the corner of their eye, gone before they could even turn to look. The mystery of the Emerald Plague is not about what these birds are, but what they represent. A reminder that even in our most controlled green environments, we are never truly at the top of the food chain. We are merely the spectators of a new, faster evolution. The fear has led to a new kind of urban folklore. Some claim the birds are a response to the city's noise, a creature that evolved to hunt in silence by eliminating anything that makes a sound. Others believe they are the city's own defense mechanism, a biological immune response to the encroachment of human expansion. Regardless of the theory, the reality remains the same. The sky above London and Berlin is no longer empty, and the parks are no longer just for recreation. They are the hunting grounds of a predator that moves with the grace of a phantom and the precision of a scalpel. They are the guardians of a wildness we thought we could tame with landscaping. The psychological weight of the Emerald Plague is most felt in the quiet moments. It is the hesitation before stepping into a shaded alleyway, or the way people walk faster when the wind picks up. In these cities, the color green no longer represents life or renewal. It represents a threat that is perfectly camouflaged. To see a lush, vibrant tree is to see a potential launch pad for a strike that occurs faster than the human nervous system can process pain. We have surrounded ourselves with beauty, only to find that beauty has developed a razor's edge. The lungs of our cities are breathing, but they are breathing with the sharp, cold air that carries the scent of steel and ozone. If you find yourself walking through one of these green corridors, and the wind suddenly begins to whistle in a way that sounds like tearing silk, do not look up. Do not try to find the source of the sound. The Saw-winged Falcon is a creature of momentum. It exists only in the space between the start and the finish of its strike. By the time you hear the whistle, the event has already concluded. The emerald flash has passed, the cut has been made, and the predator has once again merged with the leaves, waiting in the perfect, vibrant green silence for the next movement in the trees. The green cities are alive, but they are not ours. They belong to the Emerald Plague, to the creatures that turned our architecture into their hunting range and our parks into their killing floors. The mystery remains open, the sky remains watched, and the emerald feathers continue to fall, silent and sharp, onto the streets of a world that thought it had mastered nature. We invited the wild back into our homes, and it arrived with the speed of a bullet and the sharpness of a blade. As the emerald lights flicker in the canopy of the Tiergarten and the London parks, we are left to wonder, what else is waiting to evolve in the shadows of our progress? The new green is here, and it is a masterpiece of lethal design.